Hey guys, it's Addie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm very excited because we are doing TV show recommendations, and if you know anything about me, you know that I love to watch TV, so I think I'm very qualified to give TV show recommendations as a certified binge watcher. So basically I just made a list of like all of my favorite TV shows. If it's not worthy of rewatching or I haven't rewatched it, it's not on the list. But I tried to include like a really wide range. A lot of you guys have been asking me for TV show recommendations, and I know most of you, if you follow me on other platforms, have already heard of most of the shows that like I post about, like you know which ones I'm gonna say. But I tried to come up with some like random ones, more obscure ones, shows that maybe you haven't heard of or haven't watched yet, or maybe like you've heard of but you were like, I don't really know if that's for me, or I don't really know if I should watch it. Today I'm going to tell you if you should or not. So I hope that this, you know, helps you guys find your next favorite show. I get so many comments of people saying like, oh, I started Supernatural because of you and now it's one of my favorite shows, or like I started this because of you, and it makes me so happy that like I'm able to like share my favorite TV shows and the loves of my life with you and you guys are enjoying them. So maybe after this you'll be one of those people that can say that. I don't know. Anyway, I'm really excited, and this is the first video with the new hair. Can we take a moment? I love her so much. I think she turned out so cute, and I'm so happy with the dark hair for right now, so yay. I'm in a really good mood today, can you tell? I've had a lot of caffeine. I had a Celsius this morning and now I'm having a soda too. Anyway, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the TV show, give you a short kind of like summary of it. Think of it like, I know you don't see a lot of these kind of videos necessarily, but I'm kind of doing it in the format of like a book recommendation video, or like a TBR or like wrap-up kind of video. If that makes sense. So I'll tell you the show, give you a short summary, I'll tell you guys who my favorite character is, and we'll move on to the next show because I have quite a lot, so I don't want to take too much time on anything. But no, if I mention it, I like it. Anyway, let's get to it. Okay, TV show number one, I think this is pretty obvious, but I'm just gonna get it out of the way. The Vampire Diaries. If you haven't watched The Vampire Diaries, like, what are you doing? What do you mean you haven't watched The Vampire Diaries? You have to go watch it right now. Like, drop everything that you were doing and go watch it. Just do it. But if you've been holding off, let me give you a short summary. Basically, it's about two vampire brothers and a human girl. I feel like it's kind of hard to describe the Vampire Diaries without giving it away, so like I don't really know how to summarize it, but basically it's got witches, vampires, werewolves, and things in between, like vampire werewolves and witch vampires and all sorts of crazy stuff. It's got drama, it's got romance, it's got family, it's got humor, it's got really beautiful people. And I like that it has that like little side of action plus the like teen drama. I feel like Vampire Diaries is kind of very much so teen drama, but with that supernatural action-packed like side going on, which like for me, so good, love that. And my favorite character is Caroline, so you'll definitely have to keep an eye out for her if you're watching it for the first time because she's my favorite. Don't judge her off the first season. Don't judge her off the first season, okay? She has some growth, she has some things to go through, so just like wait it out, she becomes an amazing character. But moving on, my personal favorite show from the Vampire Diaries universe is the originals, and I think it's so important if you are a fan of the Vampire Diaries to also watch the originals. I know there are some people that haven't even watched it, so like, what? But realistically, you don't have to watch the Vampire Diaries to watch the originals. So if you're on the fence and you don't really want to watch the Vampire Diaries, I will say that you should watch the originals, because the originals is kind of like, it's more grown up, it's more family based, like it's more centered around this like family dynamic, and like it's less teen drama, if that makes sense. I think the originals is just a bit more mature. I like the storyline better. I think it has like just a lot more substance to it. I mean, like it's centered around the original vampires, like the first ever vampires, and so I think that the history that comes with that and like goes way back in time is just like so cool, that there's so many different times that they can touch on when they're explaining something that happened, and like they've been here through everything. So I think that it's definitely a lot cooler, and I personally like the Michelsons more than I like the Salvatores, which the Michelsons are the characters in the originals. So, but I love them both, and the moral of the story is that you should watch them both. I mean, that's like a good chunk of what I post about is the Vampire Diaries, so obviously I think you should watch it. And then of course my favorite character from the originals is Elijah. I don't think I really need to say that. One more basic one, and then we're gonna go a different route for a minute, and then we'll circle back around to some other ones you guys have heard me talk about before. So next we have Supernatural. I have such a different relationship with Supernatural. Like I feel like that show just like Like, I feel it in my bones. Supernatural is about two brothers who were raised in the life of hunting monsters and vampires and witches and werewolves and all, like, if it's a supernatural creature and you can think of it, they hunted at some point in the show. Basically, the show starts with, like, a flashback of how their mom died when they were little. And their dad kind of goes on this, like, revenge spree. He wants to figure out what took their mom away from them and who was responsible, and he wants to get revenge. And so in the journey of finding out what did it, he hunts other monsters along the way and basically raises these two brothers in the life, like I said, of hunting monsters. And I think that Supernatural is just, like, I don't know, it's so unique in the way that they do it. I love, like, literally everything about it. The special effects can be a little iffy at times, but, like, you gotta push through. You gotta push through that, okay? Don't judge it for that. And no one even really recommended Supernatural to me. I kind of just came across it on my own with my dad one night, and I watched the first episode, and I was like, hey, that was really good, so I kept watching it, and I ended up really loving it. I think the most daunting thing that keeps people away from Supernatural is the fact that it has 15 seasons, but when I tell you that you will be grateful that there are 15 seasons, I say it with my heart. Like, I literally dragged out the last, like, 2 seasons over, like, 6, 7, 8 months because I didn't want it to be over. I just loved it more and more as I kept going on, and obviously it also, like, the Vampire Diaries has that, like, really cool, like, action-packed supernatural plot that, like, I personally really love, but again, it has the plot of family, it has, you know, some romance subplots, which I really like. But I think that, like, what makes Supernatural so unique and why I really, really think you should watch it is the characters. The characters are, like, just the way that Supernatural does it. I have never in my life watched it, like, just a TV show, not based on a book or anything, that I genuinely felt so connected to the characters with. Like, I don't know, it's just, it's different, and I don't really know why, but, like, you can just connect to those characters on a different level. And I just, like, I don't, it's hard for me to explain, but it's just, it's different, and you need to experience it, so go watch it. My favorite character is Dean, of course. Again, that one's kind of obvious, but I love him. He's a great character. Again, a really beautiful cast, so that's always a bonus. Moving on. Okay, next, a lot of the time when I'm describing Supernatural, I like to describe it, especially in the beginning of the show, as spooky Criminal Minds. So next up we have Criminal Minds. I personally have always been a true crime girly. I remember watching, like, true crime TV with my mom when I was in, like, 5th grade. That was probably weird for a child, but I loved watching true crime, and I love listening to true crime podcasts. And if you like true crime, you should watch Criminal Minds because it's fictional. Obviously, it's not true, but basically, it's FBI agents in the behavioral analysis unit of the FBI, and they help solve and hunt crime and all sorts of different things. And if you like that kind of stuff, if you like cop shows, I guess it's kind of what it is. But I think Criminal Minds is better than a typical cop show. Then you should watch it. My favorite character is probably Hotch. I think he's great. Obviously, everyone loves Spencer Reid, but I personally, like, if I'm going, like, not the basic answer, which is Spencer Reid, I'm gonna say Hotch. Okay, next. This one is, like, I don't hear people talk about it too much, but I posted about it a couple times recently, and it's Anne with an E. I love Anne with an E so much. I think it needs to be talked about more, and I will forever be sad that it was canceled, so you should know going in that it does, like, it ends on a good note, but, like, you can tell that, like, there should have been more, and you really just wish that there was more, and it's over. It's basically just about this girl, Anne, and her life, and she's kind of, like, awkward and not, like, the typical favorite or a typical main character, and I think that's what makes the show interesting, but I will pretty much leave that at that because it's kind of hard to really go deeper than that. But I will say that you will experience a crap ton of secondhand embarrassment when you try and watch Anne with an E, and I will tell you that you have to push through it, as it is so good. There's so many good messages, there's so much, like, important stuff that they include in there, and it also has, like, an amazing love interest that is, like, so cute, so romantic. I like shows that are set in, like, an older time period, so I personally really like it, and I think you should go watch it. But yeah, you will be sad that there's not another season. Next, going back to a more basic answer that you guys probably assumed I would talk about, we have Teen Wolf. Teen Wolf, again, it's a supernatural show. Those are my favorite. If you can't tell, I really, really love supernatural shows. But Teen Wolf is about this high schooler and his friend group who are supernatural creatures. He basically gets bitten by a werewolf. This is not a spoiler. It's in, like, the first 10 minutes of the first episode, but he gets bitten by a werewolf, and it's basically just him and his friends, who some of them also end up being supernatural creatures, some of them are just humans fighting supernatural villains and stuff, and very much like this little found family that they have together. Lots of, like, romance, teen drama vibes like the Vampire Diaries, but just a little bit different. And my favorite character is Styles, which Again, I feel like that's kind of like Spencer Reid. It's the basic answer. I love Styles though. But I do also love Lydia. So if I had to pick a second, I would say Lydia. Moving on, we're gonna switch gears a little bit and go over to like a more funny show. If you're more of like a sitcom kind of person, then I'm gonna recommend to you Modern Family. I am currently rewatching Modern Family, so that is why it is on this list. I've watched Modern Family since I was like little, to be honest. I remember watching it on TV when I was in like elementary school, and even though obviously I didn't understand all the jokes and stuff when I was younger, I still thought it was hilarious and I loved watching it. It's the kind of show that like you can just always have on in the background. It makes you laugh, you like the characters, it's enjoyable, there's a lot going on. It's basically about a modern family. So you've got like the main family, it's like the mom, the dad, the 3 kids, and then you have the uncles and their adopted child, and then you have their grandpa and his controversially young wife and her son, and it's like just the family dynamic. They're all really funny, and that's kind of the basics of Modern Family. It's kind of all in the title if you think about it. And on that same track, if you like a goofier show, my personal like probably favorite would be New Girl. I'm gonna say this so many times, but if you haven't watched New Girl, you absolutely need to. I think that the dynamic of the characters is just so fun. It's basically about this girl, and she breaks up with her boyfriend who she was living with. She moves out, she needs somewhere to live, and she comes across these 3 guys who are roommates who need another roommate. And she ends up moving in with these 3 strangers who are all men. And it's basically just about their dynamic of this girl living with 3 guys, and they're all really funny, and obviously there's some romance, some like mingling that goes on. But it's really funny, it's really enjoyable, and it's like you will fully be submersed. Like there's like this main couple in the show, and you will be rooting for them so hard. Like you will be jumping out of your seat, and like it will have you freaking out and like in the air. And my favorite character in New Girl is probably Nick. I also feel like that's kind of a basic one, but like it's Nick Miller. Who else am I supposed to pick? I don't know. I love him. He's great. He is the standard. And on the same lines of a friend group, we have Friends, which is another more basic show, but I feel like it's a classic. I feel like everyone should watch Friends. I think it's a classic. I mean, like, how can you go through life without having watched Friends? And like, don't think it's overhyped or it's like basic. Like, I know some of it is like so like overused or talked about, but it's such a good show. It's about this friend group who lives in New York. It's about them, you know, the relationships going on between them. Obviously there's some romance thrown in there. It's about, you know, their struggles, what they're going through, and just them trying to exist and live in New York City. And my favorite character in Friends is probably Chandler. He's always been my favorite, but I think that like I'm more of a Monica. Like if I had to say which friend I would say I'm Monica, but my favorite is probably Chandler. Okay, next, you guys might not have heard me talk about this one before. It's a little bit more random. I don't hear people talk about it very much, but especially if you're a reader, if you like small town romances, if you like country feeling to them, then you need to watch Heart of Dixie. I think I found it with my mom one time. I remember watching it back when like we first moved into this house. I think I was 13 or 14, and we would watch it every night while we ate dinner. And Heart of Dixie is basically about this big city girl. She's a doctor, and she wants to like move up in the field, but they won't let her unless she goes to this, I'm trying to remember exactly what the circumstances were, so that might be a little bit off, but basically she has to go to this small town. This old guy left his practice to her, and she has to work in this small town and be like the doctor there to kind of like she was very out of touch, and so basically they want her to be more in touch with life and everything going on in the world. So she goes to this small town just to like get to know people and stuff. Is basically like they want her to interact with people and just be more down to earth, because she's not really. And obviously there's romance. The love triangle in this show, holy moly, it is so good. I genuinely love both the guys too, so it's like it's not like there's one or the other. I'm also like a huge Scott Porter fan, which he was in Jenny and Georgia, and he plays one of the love interests, and he's like this lawyer. But then there's also like the basic country man, and it's just her going back and forth between them, trying to figure out who to be with, and the friends that she makes in this town. And obviously like there's some enemies that she has, and like she doesn't really like it there at first, but then she ends up growing to love it. So I would say it's great, and my favorite character is probably, dang, I really don't know. They all have their problems, to be honest. Okay, next on a more basic note, I'm gonna say Grey's Anatomy. I mean, realistically, just the first 10 seasons, but I watched till like season 15 or 16, I think. I don't know, at least the early seasons. Like the early seasons of Grey's Anatomy are so nostalgic. They're like, It's basically a soap opera, but it's so good. The drama, but there's also like life or death because they're doctors and like there's so much going on and they're like trying to learn and I love the character relationships, and there's just like there's always so much going on. Like you're never bored in Grey's Anatomy. I mean, I think it's a great show if you're looking for something to start watching. I think that you'll definitely get hooked on it pretty fast. And my favorite characters are Lexi, Grey, Karev, and Mark Sloan. Next, let's talk about superhero shows for a minute. We're gonna go through all the superhero shows in one go. First off, you guys know that I love Marvel, and obviously you have like the new Marvel TV shows. You have like Loki, you have Hawkeye, which are great and you should watch. They're definitely important to the MCU. But my personal favorites that I think that you should watch if you're a Marvel fan. Number one, Daredevil. Daredevil is about a blind superhero who, you know, his abilities are amplified, like his hearing is better and stuff, and so that helps him when he's fighting. Daredevil is definitely like the two I'm gonna mention first are definitely more aggressive than like typical Marvel. I'm pretty sure they're like TVMA because they're very violent, but I love them. And Matt Murdock is like one of my favorite superheroes, and he's a lawyer by day, and it's basically about him and his friends who own this little law firm, or like they're starting their own law firm, and then him also being a vigilante by night. And then in Daredevil you meet another character called the Punisher, who also has his own show, which you should watch. It also has Ben Barnes in it, and everyone loves Ben Barnes, so I don't think I need to say anything else there. I mean, I love Ben Barnes. And Punisher is about this ex-military guy who goes around punishing people, and I don't really know how else to explain it, but I think that both shows are really great, and if you love Marvel and you want some more of the Marvel universe and you don't have to wait for the next movie to come out, they're definitely great. And Daredevil is getting his own MCU actual movie soon, so I think that they are both important to watch because they are both going to be in the movie. So if you're keeping up with the MCU and the new movies, I definitely think it's one that you should watch. And those aren't super talked about, but talked about even less is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so much, and if you watch Marvel, then you've heard of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is like part of the government, which is like a huge part of the MCU. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. follows Phil Coulson, who is one of the agents that you see in some of the other MCU movies. I think you see him in the first Thor movie and a couple others, but love Coulson so much. And it's basically about him and some other agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But they're great. The characters are so great. They're so lovable. There's that little, obviously, like romance that goes on inside as well, but I think that if you're a Marvel fan and you haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you definitely should. And while we're talking about superhero shows, you have Marvel, but then you also have DC, which you have the Arrowverse shows, which I haven't watched all of them, but I have watched Flash and Arrow, which I really loved both. The beginning of Arrow was the best. So I think that the first few seasons are really great and you should watch, which is about a vigilante as well, kind of like Daredevil, but a little bit less violent. And then you have Flash, which is, you know, the fastest man alive, and he's like more of a nerd. He's a forensic scientist, so I don't know as much about those, so it's kind of harder for me to explain. But they're both really great. Barry Allen is adorable. Arrow, my favorite character is probably Felicity, and then Flash, my favorite character is probably Barry. Okay, next. The most recent season of this one just came out recently, and like I said, I love a good TV show or movie or book, even set in an earlier time period. If the men are wearing fluffy white shirts, I'm sat. I'm there. I love a fluffy white shirt on. Probably already know where I'm going with this. If you haven't watched Bridgerton, you definitely should. I love Bridgerton so much. It's so good. It's just like a basic romance show. It's set in the 1800s, and there's balls and there's dancing, but they also have this like drama side added to it with Lady Whistledown. And my favorite season, the season that made me fall in love with it, I remember season 1 came out and I watched it and I was like, okay, like that was okay. But I never really thought about it again. But then season 2 came out and I heard You Are the Bane of My Existence for the first time, and like I've never been the same since. So my favorite character is Anthony Bridgerton. Honorable mentions though are Kate and Benedict. And Bridgerton is basically about this family, last name Bridgerton, that, you know, lives in the Regency era, and basically each season is set around a different Bridgerton family member and them finding their love interest. So season 1 was about Daphne Bridgerton and who she marries, and then season 2 was about Anthony, and then season 3 was about Colin. Next, another romance themed, have a little bit more of a teen show. We have Heartstopper. I think that Heartstopper is just so cute. It's so heartwarming, It's heart-stopping. It's such an adorable show with such amazing characters, and I think it's, you know, I think all the characters are so cute, and it's such like a, I watch it and I smile. That is what Heartstopper is. It's just like, oh, like that's how you feel when you watch Heartstopper. Okay, next, these two kind of go together. Like Modern Family, I watched this first one when I was younger a lot, and I always thought it was funny, and then I've watched it since being older, and I still think it's really funny and really like it, and that is The Big Bang Theory. I also think that it's kind of a classic like Friends that you need to watch. I once had a dog that was named Sheldon Cooper. I don't know, I think everyone needs to experience watching it, and it's just, you know, it's one of those shows like Modern Family that I think you can put on in the background and like blow through the entire thing and enjoy every second of it. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you smile. It's basically about, again, a friend group, kind of like Friends, living in Los Angeles instead of New York, and they're all nerds. The majority of them are kind of awkward, and it's just about their lives, and pretty much the same thing as Friends, them, you know, going through milestones, and it's really funny. And who's my favorite character in Big Bang Theory? Probably Penny, to be honest. I love Penny. And going with The Big Bang Theory is a show that I just binged for the first time, and I'm waiting for the next season to come out on Netflix so I can finish it. But that's Young Sheldon. I'm sure you've seen Young Sheldon all over TikTok. I know, like, I was talking to someone one time and they said that they basically feel like they'd seen the whole show in TikTok clips, because it's one of those shows that they post like those TikTok clips of all the time, and I'd seen those too, but I still decided to watch the whole show. And I love it so much. It's basically about young Sheldon, so Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, but when he was younger, because when you watch his character in The Big Bang Theory, you're like, what was he like as a child? And that's the idea of the show, and they're making another spin-off about it because they just finished it, and I'm really excited to watch that too. So if the fact that I'm also going to watch that tells you anything, it should tell you that you should watch Young Sheldon. And I mean, you don't really have to watch The Big Bang Theory to watch Young Sheldon, but I would recommend it. I think it makes the experience better. So, and my favorite character is probably Missy. Next, we have another show that's not necessarily a classic yet. Sorry, I'm spinning back and forth a bunch, but I think it's going to become a classic. I think that everyone should watch Stranger Things as well. Stranger Things is basically about this group of kids, now teenagers, and they're fighting this, like, Stranger Things is really hard to describe. It's basically just some really strange things going on. Stranger Things happening, you know? I don't know how to describe it. It's set in the 80s, so the vibes are really good. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's going to be a classic, and I think that you should watch it before the new season comes out, because if you haven't been watching it as each season comes out, it's going to be one of those shows that before the last, because this is the last season, before the final one comes out, you don't want to miss out on being able to experience it, watching it, to be able to experience it for the first time with everyone else. Like, I think that watching Stranger Things and then, like, going on TikTok and seeing everyone talk about it is, like, an unmatched feeling. I just, like, I think that you'd be doing yourself a disservice to not watch it before it's over. Alright, we've got 3 shows left. So going on a completely different note than anything else I've talked about, we have a children's show. We have H2O Just Add Water, which I think is just like such a... Anyway, it's basically about these 3 girls who get turned into mermaids, and they have to deal with the struggles of being a mermaid. They can't touch water or they grow a tail, and I don't know, it's like, I think it's maybe a nostalgia thing, but I think like in general it's a good show and it's funny, and it's like, it's definitely also, like, if you're watching it as an adult, probably more of a background show than a show that you would fully pay attention to. My favorite character is probably Ricky. Okay, next we have one that the next season just came out on Netflix, and I just started finally getting to watch that yesterday, I think. So we have All American. All American, basically like a high school football show. It also touches on a lot of important issues, and I really enjoyed it. I really like the characters, and I'm not gonna lie, I started watching it because Cody Christian is in it, and he's from Teen Wolf, and I love him in Teen Wolf, and I love Cody Christian, so that's why I started watching it. And his character's kind of a jerk in the beginning, so that was kind of awkward for me, but overall, really like it. I don't know who my favorite character is. I mean, obviously the one I pay the most attention to is Cody Christian's character, which is Asher, but maybe Layla. And last but not least, since we're kind of closing off summer right now, I say that this is a summer show that you should watch before summer is over. We have The Summer I Turned Pretty. The Summer I Turned Pretty is something that's talked about a lot, but it's based on books, so the book girlies were here first, and it's about this girl and 2 brothers that grew up together going to the brothers' beach house every single summer. Like, the brother's parents had a beach house, and every single summer they would all go together there. It was the girl, her brother, and then the 2 brothers, and it's about, you know, she's always had a crush on one of them, but then the other one is also really great, and it's just a love triangle show, basically, a teen drama, which is kind of the theme we've got going on, but it's very summer vibes, very beachy. So if you're gonna choose a time to watch it, I would say right now is the best time. Like Stranger Things. Watch those two right now. Anyway, we're kind of losing the light, but I think that is all of the TV shows I have to talk about today. I'm sure there's some other ones that I'm just not thinking of, but those are some of my favorites that I think if you're looking for a new TV show to watch and there's any of those that you haven't seen before, I would definitely recommend them, and I think that if you like the same TV shows as me, you'll probably enjoy them. Anyway, if you start watching a new show because of this, please comment down below which one it is. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me ramble about TV shows for however long this video is. And I will see you guys actually on Sunday instead of Thursday because I have a little bonus video for you this week. But I will see you guys then. I love you all so much. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!